Man, honestly, I feel like it's people chase, the trend instead of following
Mm,
like why they originally loved music. But people can tell when it's honest. And
yeah.
if they don't believe you, then I feel like it doesn't work.
Mm.
And so I think people get burnt out when they're working so hard, chasing something, that seems to be working for somebody else and it's not working for them. So a lot of people unfortunately quit.
What's up, everybody? Hey, tonight I'm here with my good friend Kyle Jefferson. Kyle was one of the first people that I got to work with here in Nashville. I met him and his wife when they lived in Alabama. And when I first moved to town, Kyle took a chance on me. He worked on some of my early projects when I moved here. And he's just one of the most talented people that I know in this city and is one of my closest friends in this city as well. And so I feel like the things that Kyle has been through as a producer, working with so many different kinds of artists across the spectrum here in Nashville, I think any advice he's going to have for us tonight is going to be beneficial for people across a wide variety of genre and experience. And so I'm super excited to have him here with us tonight. Kyle, how you doing, buddy?
Bro, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, Kyle, how did you get started in production? Obviously, you were doing it before you moved to Nashville. Tell us a little bit about how you got started and what you're doing today.
Yeah, man, I kind of started more doing instrumental things. I wanted to like play in bands. I played in a few bands in college, and production was kind of like more of a hobby. I was like, nobody will ever want me to produce for them. But when I moved here to Nashville in 2015, um, I just got a chance to be in a lot of studios, a lot of sessions, and after a couple really bad road experiences and a couple really good experiences in the studio, I really wanted to take a chance in, giving production a shot. So I begged my friends to let me produce their stuff and just kept growing from there.
Moving to Nashville obviously has some preconceived notions when you're coming from Alabama. Obviously, we're moving from a smaller town into a big city, but even more than that, we're moving into a music city. And so there are these ideologies that we have maybe moving into a city like Nashville. And, usually people that move to Nashville are people who come from small communities who are among the most talented in those communities. So, what
Sure.
was it like for you moving to Nashville? Did you expect things to happen the way that they did happen when you first started doing what you're doing? What did that all look like when you first came to town?
It was super humbling. Just being around really great people all the time. And I got to a point where I just started assuming that everybody was great because everybody I was meeting was so good. And yeah, I thought I could kind of stand out drumming with my gospel background and even with keys, even though that's like my second instrument. And I just quickly found out that like it's just a different culture. And um, I was able to fit in with my other strengths, connecting people, collaborating, and just honestly being hungry to learn and just putting in the hours. I think that was the biggest thing that kind of like gave me an advantage and an edge is I lost my ego real quick.
Because when you moved to town, you weren't just jumping into a full time music career where all
No,
you did was music all the time, right? I think you were married before you moved to Nashville.
no, I wasn't married. I moved
Okay.
up here probably close to 2 years, a year in a few months before I got married. So I was working in a hotel, doing the thing where I'm like, either working really late or really
Mm.
early and trying to do rights and stuff in between. And just through that, got connected to some great people that kind of catapulted my production career.
That's so cool. That kind of leads into the next question too, because most people move to this town and they have to work a day job as a barista or in a hotel or a valet driver, whatever it is. You see a lot of people, and I've been guilty of this myself, where um, I think they realize the dream maybe wasn't. They weren't as in love with the dream as they originally thought they were, and so they can tend to get burnt out. What's one of the biggest things, in your opinion, that causes artists to get burnt out way quicker than they should be getting burnt out when they move to a city like Nashville?
Man, honestly, I feel like it's people chase, the trend instead of following
Mm,
like why they originally loved music. I think from the most seasoned listener, like the classically trained or a producer that can hear every chord, every note, understands the structure, to like somebody like my mom, who doesn't do a ton of music things. She has great taste, but people can tell when it's honest. And
yeah.
if they don't believe you, then I feel like it doesn't work.
Mm,
And so I think people get burnt out when they're working so hard, chasing something, that seems to be working for somebody else and it's not working for them. So a lot of people unfortunately quit.
yeah.
And I think that's a big thing for me. I had to remind myself that I love music. Like, my dad always said, do what you love and your vocation will be a vacation. So,
Yeah, that's good.
uh, that's some pastor, alliteration there. But yeah, I just really, I kind of took that to heart. And I think that saved me from getting burnt out, and then just having a community too,
Mm,
of people, again, with no egos, that are willing to help, willing to be connectors, willing to show you stuff. I was just extremely blessed to, stumble upon people that were like, man, you got a great natural talent, but maybe try this or like do this. And so,
and I think too, this TikTok era of music has I mean, it's even the playing ground pretty significantly, to the point where anybody can blow up at any given moment, and a record deal is not as far off as it used to be, because if you get something that's viral, then a record label wants to be all over that. But now you have these people who are chasing virality rather than chasing the dream of music for the sake of loving music.
yeah.
And I think that, like you said, that's going to be the thing that is going to be the long standing metric for whether or not people stay in the music industry or just give up altogether. Because if the dream is just fame and fortune and success and virality, then it's going to be very short lived, and you might get to see that, but then somebody else is going to come along the next day and
Yeah.
pass your view count or your
And,
follower count.
and that's almost even worse. I see that a lot too. It's like people have this, you know, viral moment and they're like, man, that worked, let me chase it. And then it's like they can't create lightning in the bottle twice, and that's almost even more depressing.
Yeah.
uh, yeah, I think the goal should never be virality. It should be sustainability and like
Mm,
creating a career with people that you love, and doing music that you love. And I think that's kind of the recipe. And I've had moments where I've really like done that, and even now I still struggle with like, man, I really want to like chase that thing that's working.
yeah.
But if I look over the course of my career, the things that have like brought the most success have been the things that like felt the most like me, or were like
Mm,
just truly inspired, not like copying.
yeah. And you said success for your career specifically and your lifestyle. I think that also is another thing that people have to be careful of, is deeming one person's version of success as the one and only version of success. So for you, as Kyle Jefferson, working in production in Nashville, what does success look like for you? What's the end goal where everything just feels right and you're okay with where you're at musically, professionally?
Yeah, I think it's always going to be a moving target, because if you had asked me 5 years ago, the answer may be where I am now. But it's just like, I think that's a part of growth. It's like, there's always another level, and then I feel like the end goal for me now feels like, it's not just me. It's putting other people on and like elevating younger people. And I think giving back, once you realize that like, oh, you can have a career in the music industry, which seemed impossible before I moved here. It was just a leap of faith, really. But now that I have understood that that is a possibility, it's like, okay, so how can I empower the people that are behind me that um, didn't really have the keys, didn't really know um, how to record a vocal, like that have that natural talent. So definitely giving back's a big thing, big part of the end goal. And if I can keep paying my bills, working with my friends, that's more than I could ever ask for, honestly.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. Well, with all that being said, I know this is kind of a new season, a new chapter in your life musically. We can go into the details or we cannot go into the details, but I know that you're working in a different realm than you have been in the past few years. Is there anything that's super exciting that's happening for you, or a project that you're just super stoked on for 2023? What's on the horizon for Kyle Jefferson?
Man, your project for sure. Uh,
We're going to get that out one of these
I
years.
mean, we may as well plug it while we're here.
Yeah,
But
might as well. Cheers to that.
I mean, yeah, I feel like the stuff I'm doing with my friends. Two Live Bree, Hugh G, and I have like a dope project. Daisha McBride, your stuff. Yeah, it's just really cool. And honestly, I've been working on some of my own music. And I feel like over the years that's been put on the back burner, because I've prioritized other things. But now I'm just excited to like create from just really just a fresh start,
Yeah.
and just to not have any kind of, I don't know, like voices in my head about what to do or what to say. Just being inspired. It feels cool. Like it's a hunger that I haven't had in a long time, being fully independent now. So it is like cool to have, more skill and more experience, but be back in a place where it's like, okay, like what's next, like not knowing what's next.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like you get in patterns and like comfortability, but I feel like you gotta get out of those patterns to really grow. Or even if you don't, find the success, you still grow. So I feel like there's growth in every season. So I'm excited. I hope that answers your question.
No, yeah. That was perfect. That was perfect. And definitely want to get some of the things that you and I have been working on out into the world. I let my roommate earlier, I told you that I let him hear one of the songs that we did, where we got to have the gospel choir in the background singing with us, and
Bro, yeah.
been sitting on that for a couple years too long. So I'm excited to finally get that out in the world soon too.
It's time, man.
It's time. It's time. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for just being a part. This is something that I know both of us want to do, is to share the stories and the expertise of the many friends that we have in this town that are so talented and are so willing to give back to the community, and people who are willing to be teachable and wanting to learn, and not accepting where they're at as the end goal, but just that being as a part of their journey. And the next step is listening to people that are further along than you are. And so I'm just super thankful that you would take the time tonight to come on here and just share some of the things that you've seen. For people that want to follow you more closely, what's the best way for them to see what you're doing, keep up with your content? How do they go about doing that?
Yeah, everything's Instagram, at J4Given, the number 4. All my other stuff kind of like lands there, and it goes out to TikTok and YouTube. And so yeah, follow me on Instagram. I'm probably the most active there. So
Nice. Well, Kyle, thank you again so much for being a part of this. And man, I'm excited to start the new year with you, making more music, do more videos, hopefully more podcasts together. And
dude, let's do 100%.
All right, buddy. Well, thank you again. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir.